Man, I am so excited to be here. I just had five of my short sale students, each one make over $100,000 profit on their very first short sale. Can you believe that? Two
What?
of them out of the five, two of those are what called wholesales. They each made $100,000 profit and did no rehab,
What's
right?
up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Invest Iowa. Today, I have David with me, the expert on short sale. We're going to be covering everything from what is a short sale, how do you do it, do you need to be a wholesaler, do you need to have a real estate license, every other question that people might ask. We're going to try to cover it here, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate you having the time to come over here and try to solve all those beginner questions that we might have. Thank you for your time.
I'm really excited to be here. I love sharing my information and 13 years of knowledge in negotiating, buying houses on short sales. I'm really honored to be here.
That's great. So how can we get started? Tell me who David is in a short, I don't know, introduction.
Great. Yeah. I mean, my background is actually engineering. So I graduated from high school and went to engineering, went to college and got an engineering degree. But then what happened was I was working in the, traditional job, okay, for somebody else, and making them a lot of money. And I moved up in the company and actually reached a point where I'm sitting in the office of the personnel director trying to find out about my raise. You're working and you get this annual raise, and they told me, well, we can't give you any raise. You're not going to make any more money than you are now. And I'm like, but wait, I just got a patent for the company. What do you mean? Well, you're getting paid as much as the president already. And I'm like, well, give him a raise, so I can get I realized that ladder I was climbing, it fell off of a cliff on the other side. When you got to the top, there was a drop off. So basically at that point in time, my wife and I turned to real estate, and we went to a 3-day conference on real estate and fell in love with it. And so we started doing real estate in 2009. And we started out by, learning how to rehab houses. Our thought was, if we knew how to rehab, we could keep it as a rental, we could wholesale it, we could do lots of things. If we could learn single family, then maybe we can move into multifamily later. So we kind of started with rehabbing. Then we had a decision: how do you buy your house? What's your method? Probate, free and clear, tired landlords. There's a bunch of them. Well, in 2009, if you remember, what was going on was a crisis in the banking industry, foreclosures everywhere. It was massive. Families were falling apart. They were getting kicked out of their houses. Banks were not following any rules, and it was terrible. So we thought, this is a way for my wife and I to help families out and have a business and buy houses and fix them up. So we started in 2009, doing short sales with it. And so we really got, pretty good at that over time, learned a lot, developed, I'm an engineer, so I have checklists and procedures for everything. And so basically we started rehabbing 5 to 10 houses a year. Okay. And then one of my claims to fame is all my renovated houses that I've listed on the MLS, under 265,000, here in St. Louis, Missouri. All those houses have sold in 7 days or less, at list price or higher, for 13 years. Okay. So
Wow.
they're gorgeous, but I kind of have a little advantage. I don't want to say cheat, because then the women on here think he's a cheater, so I don't want to say we're cheat. No, I'm a very faithful to my wife. No, but I do have a little edge in doing that in 7 days, because I make $50,000 to $150,000 profit on each house. Okay. And I do that by negotiating short sales. So that's not on the MLS, with a realtor. No, not that, but rather I work with the homeowner and negotiate directly with the bank. That's what I do. I do the direct negotiations with the bank and with the homeowner, and stop the foreclosure, and a lot of aspects to it. But anyway, then from there, I was blessed to make so much money. You can tell, that kind of I wholesale them for 80 grand. If I rehab it, I make 150. But I became a hard money lender. My heart was to help new rehabbers get started. So I've got over $3 million in cash in my retirement accounts. This isn't syndicated money. This isn't, some, SEC type. This is my IRA. And so I'm too young to retire. So I started lending it out. So my heart is to help new rehabbers. So I'll give them all the money to buy it, all the money to fix it up, all the money for the points on the loan, and all the money for the monthly interest payments. They need $0 in their checking account. There's no credit check, no tax returns, none of that stuff. You pay all the money back, when you sell the house on the HUD statement. After that, I moved into people saying, would you teach me what you do? So, and so now I became an educator about 3 or 4 years ago. It actually started at a RIA conference in St. Louis, a monthly meeting. The speaker failed to show up, and they knew me for 10 years. Hey, Dave, would you speak on short sales? So I had like 2 days notice, and I did this presentation in front of 150 people, standing room only. And I was sat the whole time I sat in a chair, because I was so scared and nervous. At the end, they all got mad at me because I didn't have anything to sell. There's no back table. Like, hey, Joe, I'm just a guy like you. What do you mean? And anyway, that launched the whole, education space for me. And I now teach other people how to do short sales. And I love it. Matter of fact, just to be kind of open with you here, I'm not going to do any more than 5 rehabs this year. When my students are making $100,000 on their first short sale, I love that. So rehabbing, it's kind of, going to get cut down, but that's kind of my super quick, intro of my, real estate experience.
That's impressive. So define it to me. What is exactly a short sale?
Well, there's a lot of people, like if you ask, 100 different real estate investors, what is a short sale? Well, they're all going to say this. They're going to, what's your one sentence answer? Well, they're going to say, well, a short sale is when they owe more than what the house is worth, right? That's what you hear. They owe more on their loan than what they can sell the house for. That's your simple answer. But I say, nah, wrong answer. Okay. A short sale technically is they miss one house payment. That's it. They miss one house payment and you can do a short sale. Yeah, people don't understand that. It changes the whole ball game. They don't have to be underwater. Matter of fact, there's a statistic. So remember I said I'm an engineer, so I'm a data junkie nerd, right? So I got to talk statistics. There's actually over 2 million delinquent loans in this country right now due to the pandemic and the current inflation rate. But there's a company called Black Knight that did this 30-year study on foreclosures. So over 30 years, they looked at all the foreclosures in the country, and they looked at the ones that had 40% equity. The home had 40% equity. They could snap their finger and sell it on the MLS instantly, right? Okay, 40% equity. They found out that 30% of those, almost 1/3 of all those, went to foreclosure. You weren't there to help them. Your person listening to this podcast wasn't there to help them. They went to foreclosure. They lost the house. They had their credit and all the terrible ramifications because you weren't there. So for me, a short sale is, have they missed a payment? And do they just want out of this deal? Do they have other problems in life that they're more concerned about? And then you can step in and negotiate with the bank and do like I do, where I bought a house for $29,600. Okay. Can you imagine a house for $29,000? This isn't Detroit. That's
a steal.
Yeah. And sold it for $275, So the banks are working under a completely different criteria. But that's kind of what a short sale is. You miss one house payment.
So let me just get this clear. Let's say I missed one payment, right? What will that conversation take you, or what questions would you have to ask in order to further the process?
Well, what happens is, there's a point where they miss one payment, and if they miss a certain number of payments, then they know that the bank is going to start a legal process all across the country, called foreclosure. And that in essence, requires the legal description to be posted in the public paper. And then that length of time, of course, varies by state. But then they know that they're going to eventually lose that home and have a foreclosure on their record. So you're stepping in with them, and maybe you don't talk to them when they just missed one house payment. Maybe they've already got that date set and now they've panicked. But in either case, you want to, if it's one payment or if it's, a foreclosure date, you want to outline the path of what's going to happen. Yes, you missed one payment. Do you think you can make that payment up? Do you have a rich uncle? Okay. Do you think you can apply for a loan modification? Well, no, I don't have a job. Well, no loan and so you go through the options with the homeowner. I guess I want to be clear. You have to have a heart to help these people out. You have to, some of the people that are the best at doing short sales are someone that lost their home to foreclosure in the past. Okay, because they understand what they went through. And so you have to have a heart for them to help them do what they want. Do they want to keep the house or do they want to get rid of it? They're like, yeah, I missed a house payment because I can't fix the roof. I can't do all this stuff. I'm divorced. The house is 2 times the size. I don't want this house. Let's get rid of this house. So, that's kind of how it goes is what do you want to do? Okay. And then here's what's going to happen in the future if you don't have some of these options available to you. And there's a lot of options, but that's kind of how it goes. You outline the options and show what's going to happen if they don't make decisions.
Right. So if they don't make the payments, then how do you get in contact with these people? List source or?
Well, I teach people to get the names and addresses from the county legal newspaper. So I teach you to do short sales with people with a foreclosure date. Can you do it before the date? Yes, you can, but of course they're not as motivated. So I teach everybody to do it when they have a foreclosure date. Now that's, in Missouri, you got 21 days, in Georgia, 30 days, each state's got, 60 days, different number of days, but every single one of those are in a county legal newspaper. So I don't teach you to go to foreclosureme.com or some other, aggregated website, but rather I teach my students to go directly to the county legal newspaper. And that's a term. So it's like where government contracts, divorces, and foreclosures are posted, and you go to the internet version, of that. Obviously, we don't want to open up a newspaper. We go to the internet version and get the names and addresses from there.
Okay. One missed payment, how far can they go for you to do a short sale? All the way from one missed payment to a foreclosure, or when is that due deadline?
Good question. So what happens is so they can miss payments for a very long time, and the bank can make a decision at any time to start that 21-day or that 30-day time frame. So they could go, maybe a year. They could go 2 years sometimes. The traditional number is that the bank will foreclose after 3 missed payments. Okay, so they'll start the process after 3, missed payments. One is you probably just forgot to mail it in, right? Okay, you miss a second one. Well, that's pretty intentional. And by the third one, they're like, hey, this ain't going to happen. We better, recover and stuff. And so there can be a long time frame in there, but it is very well defined that once they do that it's a certain number of days, and that makes them the most motivated. So you just simply step in at that point and just go boom with the bank and stop the foreclosure date, and then you can do the whole short sale process after that.
Okay. How do you start the short sale process?
You basically need to get an authorization form from them. Okay, the one document that you need to do everything we're going to talk about on this entire podcast comes from the authorization form. Okay, that lets you talk to the bank and handle everything. That lets you talk to the homeowner and get from them what you need, and then go to the bank, and then you don't have to do anything. I mean, obviously there's stuff that has to take place, but the whole negotiation process takes place, and you come back at the end with the seller coming to the closing table, selling the house. So that's the first step, is to get that authorization form.
Okay, what do you say to the seller? Because in most cases, not every seller is going to be educated in the terms that you're going to be saying to them. They're not even going to know what's a short sale. How do you explain that to them?
Yeah, that's really, you're right, because there's a what is that, and so they don't know, and they certainly don't know the process of how to do one. So the question kind of just becomes is, well, I'll say this, and there's a better answer to it. Okay, but at the end, let's say that whatever you said to them, that they didn't understand it. Let's just say whatever you said, they didn't understand what that short sale was. At the end, you can just say, well, look, I need to do a short sale on your house. And if you don't want to do that, then I can leave right now. And then you can go to foreclosure next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and you won't own the house. And I get up and start to walk away, and they go, no, wait, come back, because they don't want to lose the house next Tuesday. Okay, so ultimately, they will agree to do a short sale, because that stops that big giant, white light that's called a train coming down the tunnel at them with it and stuff. But basically, to explain to them what that is that, and so for the, our investors, we can talk more about the whole, short sale process. We don't say this to the homeowner because it's too much detail, but in essence, we're trying to tell them that the bank is going to come out and determine the actual value of the home, and then they're going to change the amount of the loan down to what that number is. And so that loan amount goes down based on what they say the value is. Now you can sell that to a regular buyer. The bank will pay you some money, but not very much because they are taking a loss on it. And then you will be able to move out of the house. You'll be able to save your credit. You'll be able to go and buy something else and be able to move on with your life. And in the short sale process, you're going to be saving up your monthly payments every month, so you kind of have some money to help you get going and stuff. And so usually the biggest factor I find isn't the money they can get from the bank, but it's the time in the house. If it's 21 days, 30 days, 90 days in Illinois, any of the, a short sale is going to take, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. All of those are the primary factor. They go, you can get me 3 months in the house, 5 months, 6 months, oh yeah, that's what, that's what they really hone in on. It's not the fact of that the bank will pay him a little bit of money. It's that time in the house.
Oh, wow. Okay, but now the bank wouldn't want a short sale because they're losing money.
Well, tough luck, right? Okay, I mean, look, Mr. Bank, you made a business decision. You underwrite this loan. You did an appraisal. You thought you knew what the value was. But today, this is what it's worth. You made a poor decision, Mr. Bank. You can't get blood out of a turnip or whatever out of a rock or wherever it comes from. That's what it's worth. Nobody in the world is going to pay any more than that price, and you have to take a loss. What do you want to do? Do you want to spend a lot of money on a foreclosure process, have the homeowner file bankruptcy and delay it for 1.5 years, and then get the house back, and then have to do the same discovery that it's not worth what you thought? And so that's kind of the quick, way that conversation can go with the bank.
Oh, okay. That will make sense, right? Because all they're looking at is numbers. And
Exactly.
now, how would you actually I'm sure you're familiar with the strategy subject to, in which you will just, keep the same debt holder, but they just change the deed to the new owner. When will subject to not be a good option and short sale will be the good option?
Okay, so so short sale is like a little niche, tiny niche within the sub 2 realm. So if you have a sub 2 deal and many variations in the profitability of a sub 2 deal, the short sale is just that little tiny piece where you might say, once again, that the house isn't worth what the loan is. So the example is, so sub 2 is where you take over the loan payments, which means you're taking over the mortgage. Well, do you want to take over the mortgage on a loan that's $300,000 and the house is $200,000? No. Okay, so now let's take this down a notch. Let's say, would you want to take over a loan that's $200,000 and the house is $200,000? Yes, most people do, right? Okay, because the tenant's going to kind of make those monthly payments for you over time anyway. So why not go ahead and sub to a house where the loan is $200,000 and the house is worth $200,000. So that's pretty common strategy. But I make this actual case here that my niche is actually a little bit bigger, and here's why. Okay, what if you as the investor knew that you had the tools and capability to instead buy that same house for $29,600 in cash, okay, and then put $80,000 in it and sell it for $275,000? Do you really want to take over a loan at $200,000, or would you rather come up with $29,000 in cash and have $120,000 of equity profit in that? Which one do you want? A loan
the
at
second one.
$29,000? Yeah, exactly. You want a loan at $29,000. Which, let me kind of dispel this other myth that maybe some of your advanced real estate investors on your podcast are thinking that well, short sales are terrible because I don't have cash to pay for the house, right? I don't have $29,000 in cash. Well, that's false, dead wrong. I absolutely never pay cash for a house, ever. Okay. You come to closing with a loan. You can get a loan. So here's the trick. So everybody should write this down. You should make your offer cash as is, your purchase sale contract cash as is. But in all cities in the United States, you can come to closing with a loan, right? As long as the terms of the contract don't change. So when you get the closing date and you buy the house, you get a hard money loan. Do you think you can find a loan for $29,000 for something worth $275,000? Heck yeah. So you don't need cash to buy the house with it. So I say my niche is a little bit bigger than normal, in my world and the way I teach and do my short sales, but it's a subset, of the sub 2 area.
Gotcha. I never thought about that. So you're bringing 29,000 cash into the table, right? And then you're also renovating the property to increase the equity of it?
Yeah, I could have just rented the house out, okay, but I'm a rehab. Remember, I said I learned how to rehab. I make $150,000 on my rehabs. I can wholesale it and make 80. Well, there's a big difference between 150 and 80, right? So I preferentially like to rehab because I just make more money. So that's why I put 80,000 into that house, so that I could get, 275. So I made, 175,000 on that house, gross profit, minus a commission, obviously, and stuff like that. I could have wholesaled that house and done none work. And I could have, maybe put maybe 5 or 10,000 in it for renting it. You got to meet codes and occupancy code, and they always make you fix something in occupancy. So I could have rented it out. So, that's kind of the thing. And in short sales, you kind of have multiple exit strategies. I mean, think about, buying a house for 29,000. We just bought one last week for 32,000. Okay. And so, you buy a house for 29,000 and they're like, well, you're a slum landlord. That's a slum, right? Well, no. This is a $280,000. I'm getting, $2,200 a month in rent. It's slum landlord pricing for the house, but it's not slum landlord rental income. It's middle income type stuff. So you have so many exit strategies. Sometimes I kind of joke with people that because I teach short sales, and I actually just teach them how to do the short sale. I don't teach them anything after that, on how to rehab or this and this and this. I kind of make the joke that, look, if you're going to buy it for $29,000, it doesn't matter whether you rehab it, wholesale it, rent it out, or burn it down for 20. Burn it down. You only spend 29,000. But you're getting houses so cheap, and people don't realize it. I just said earlier that 2 of my students wholesaled a house for $100,000. Okay, did nothing to the house. The banks are dumping the houses, and nobody understands that. They are dumping the houses because there's over 2 million delinquent loans from the pandemic, from the CARES Act, where they didn't have to make any payments for 18 months. And now they can't make up the money. That it wasn't free. It was simply an accrual of their loan. They thought it was free. And now they're being told to come up with 24 months, 36 months worth of payments. They couldn't make their payment before the pandemic.
Yeah, they're not going to do that, right?
Yeah, and they can't now. Plus, interest rates doubled. So you can't even refinance. So there's a lot of people in trouble. Inflation came along, middle of last year. Gas prices went up, food prices went up. And what happens when that does that? You stop making your house payment. We had over 546,000 new delinquent loans, okay, in January of this year, due to what we would call inflation. Bringing us to a total of 2 million delinquent loans in this country. That's phenomenal. That's a huge number.
Wow. That's so now the bank is taking a loss, and you're getting the house for 30,000. Where does the loan go?
So what happens is, well, it wasn't really there to begin with. Okay. And so let me explain that, because someone's, like you're saying, why is the bank going to take 29,000? What's the bank's motivation? Well, basically there's many factors that they're looking at. It has nothing to do with you or us. They got their own regulations. So here's where it comes from. Have you heard of this thing called fiat currency? Have you heard of this thing called the US dollar? Right. And so, this is why we want rentals, because that's the only way to combat, the declining value of the dollar, is to have, multifamilies, single family rentals, so that where rent can go up over the years, in step with how the value of the dollar. So the whole fiat currency concept is based on a banking system where this bank who had that particular loan didn't really have the money to loan. They had a dollar and they were given $15 from the government, okay, to loan that out. Okay, so here's how that works. So if there's a $100,000 loan and it's non-performing, the homeowner misses payments and they're not making payments, it becomes a $100,000 non-performing loan. Well, now the banks have to take the reverse of it back off. They've got to take 15 times. They got to take $1.5 million off of their books that they can't lend out to, Joe and Susie and Tommy, on their houses at 7.5%. And so they would much rather take, say, 50,000 or 30,000, because now they can go out and lend 750,000 out to people in there. Now, if you get too many of them, too many of these non-performing ones, then you do like Silicon Valley Bank and those others, you get too many of them, then they get shut down by the government and, the FTC and the FDIC and all those organizations that step in and shut them down. So they don't want, to have like 10, 20, 30 or 100 of them, that are non-performing, because they'll get shut down for that, also. So that's what they're looking at. When they basically can release the loan for just $29,600, they're in good with the government, with the FDIC, they're in good. Hey, we don't have the non-performing note's gone, yes, we made less profit. So instead of $1 billion this year, we made 990 million instead,
Yeah.
So that's what they're looking at. That's what the banks are doing with that note. It kind of goes away.
Okay, that makes sense. And now with that, let's break it down with an exercise. Let's say that the house is worth 200, got a loan on it worth 230. Will that be a typical example that you will find?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what you say the house is worth. Okay. So let's kind of look at that perspective. And in reality, I think as a real estate investor, we would all agree that we really don't know what it's worth. It's only worth what someone else will pay for it. And so you say that, the loan is 230 and it's worth 200, and that's not a bad sub-2 deal in the general world, so to speak, because over time, you can overcome that. But, it's not really necessarily worth 200. It depends on what needs to be done in that house. Okay. Because you can say that if I fix the house up, it's worth 200, or I fix the house up, it's worth 400. So what's the as-is value of the home? That's what you're really, really looking at. There is no real value to it, because, I don't care about as is. I only care about ARV, right? The after repair value. I don't care about the as is value right now in a home, because I'm not going to necessarily wholesale that. Even when we wholesale, we're selling it to a rehabber based on the ARV and the rehab cost. That's what he's going to pay, for that house. So
okay, that makes sense. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, how do you find the purchase price for the short sale?
Oh, sure. No, absolutely. So, like I said, there is no real actual purchase price. It's about what do we think the bank will think that the house is worth. Okay, so in all these houses that I say numbers on, the bank forced me into paying that. They gave me an approval letter that said if I want it, I have to pay $29,000 for it. And I said, okay, fine, okay, I'll pay it. But that process is that they come out to the house and they do an appraisal. Okay, and so they're going to determine what that value is, and then they're going to accept a certain percentage of that amount. Okay, and so here's a good little trick. So write this down. The government's not listening, are they? So turn off your headphones, Mr. Government. Okay, yeah, tick tick. So FHA will accept 88% of the appraisal. Okay, 88%. After 30 days, they'll take 86%. After another 30 days, they'll take 84%. Okay, so they'll do an appraisal, but that's not what they're wanting for the house. They'll take a certain percentage, and each of the different lenders have those different numbers. And so if you know what those numbers are, then you kind of know what to offer with it. Now, the secondary thing is, okay, that's great. We know a good way to get, a great discount on that, but let's find a way to make them think that home is worth a lot less money than what it might be to somebody else. Okay. And so what happens is the appraiser is going to come out to the house. Okay. And so you need to meet them at the house. You need to give them a contractor repair estimate. Okay. So they can see what everything that's wrong with the house. And so there's a whole lot of things that could be a whole nother podcast there on what do you give to the bank, to get that valuation with it. But in essence, it's kind of two things, that you're looking at with it is, doing a repair estimate, and doing a valuation by the bank, and then also doing a percentage of that number even, with it and stuff. Like, for example, conventional loan, they don't even have a percentage. Okay. If you can make a case that this is a declining neighborhood, or many other methods, they could take 50% of the appraised value. Okay.
Wow.
So
50% discount on a property?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And then you have to bring that 50% right up front, right? With a loan.
Yes, right. Yeah. Whatever they say that approval letter is for the amount that they will accept, that's got to show up by cash from somebody, but not by you. Okay. If you can get a hard money lender, you can, interestingly enough, you could get a traditional loan. If you're fast enough, you get an approval letter that gives you between 30 and 45 days to close. So if you're really on top of it and you've got a traditional lender, and you're kind of, say, pre-qualified, can you get them to close on that in 30 days? You can get a traditional loan, on that, even if you can, make sure you get all your paperwork into the bank. I mean, I think you should have a hard money guy as a backup, in case the bank doesn't close on that date, so that you can secure something for $29,000 that you don't lose.
Wow, that's insane. You're getting into a property with 50% discounted property value.
Well, no, it's even better than that, in my opinion, because see, the bank is looking at, this as is value of the home. Real estate investors don't look at the as is value. We look at the ARV and we look at what the rehab cost is. And then we're going to offer, I mean, you've heard of like Mayo, maximum allowable offer. Traditionally that's 70% times the after repair value minus your repairs, and that's what we're willing to spend on that house. So that's the value of the house to us. Okay, there is no real as is value, so to speak, with it. And so the bank is looking at, okay, this is a house that has this kind of repair work that I have to do to it. We're not in the business of repairing houses, so we want to dump it. We don't have a department, we don't have a rehabbing department, kind of thing. So that's there's a lot of bank side perspectives that go into what they'll accept.
Wow. And not imagine, so like in the class, tell me about your course. So if I was interested into like learning more about short sale, how would I go about it, and what would I learn? What would I have to learn?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a free video and slides. If somebody texts the word short, SHORT, to my phone number, 636-685-2990. I'll send you a video and slides that goes into a lot of details on short sales, shows you where to find them. We haven't talked about that one yet. It actually, in the video, shows you where to find it. Everything we've been talking about. Okay, the homeowner, where do you find those at? And so, you can watch that video if that touches your heart, if you feel like you want to help families out of a crisis. I've got a website, thedavidrandolph.com, with a workshop that you can pay for and take, and it'll teach you A to Z everything. And so that website is thedavidrandolph.com. Now, it's interesting. What happened was davidrandolph.com was taken by somebody else. my website, thedavidrandolph.com, and it's funny, davidrandolph.com was already taken by somebody else, and I'm like, oh no, my gosh, that's terrible, and somebody said, but wait a minute, wait, aren't you the David Rand? Yeah, I'm the GoDaddy. I want thedavidrandolph.com, THE David Randolph ph.com. And so anyway, people can go to my website, get a lot more information on short sales, even my hard money lending. Remember, my heart's to help new rehabbers get started, and there's a lot that comes with it. But I got short sale stuff on there. I have a course that teaches them A to Z. I've got one of my students, he took the what's called basic workshop, and he wholesaled his very first one for $40,000.
Wow.
Okay, on it, and put it on Facebook and everywhere. Thank you, Dave, and all stuff. And I sent him a message, those DM things or whatever they're called behind the scenes. I said, what are you doing? That 40,000, that's nothing. Why did you accept? He's like, Dave, it was 40,000. I did nothing. I'm like, but that's anyway. So he puts that out there. So then, just to make me mad, last year he went and did 14 more deals, all over $40,000. Okay, taking the workshop, and so just to just to make me shut up, and stuff like that. But no, it's short sales are really important in this country right now, with the economics of where we are, on top of the backlog, and we need investors out there. It's kind of an interesting thing. I kind of was on a cruise ship, and I did a presentation, and I had this slide I presented, and it was actually like voted the best slide of the whole cruise. And the slide said one simple thing. It said, a foreclosure is a failed short sale. If anybody in this country goes to foreclosure, then Sebastian, Charlie, Tony, everyone on this, you failed to do a short sale. You failed to step in and help that family. We should not have a single foreclosure in this country. A foreclosure means that you failed at doing a short sale on that house. Okay. So that's, that's something that, if you want to help families out, you want to, be successful in real estate, it's a great way to make huge profits. And the banks are dumping the houses, right now, and nobody knows it. Nobody knows that they're dumping the houses. They can't sell the house. They have no right to sell it. And, they have to go through the foreclosure process. And it's kind of funny. Well, why aren't they foreclosing? Well, I think I know why they're not foreclosing, in mass. I mean, they are foreclosing, but it's not in mass like it was in 2009. And the reason is, I don't think they have any attorneys to do it with. Back when the pandemic started in March of 2020, in June of 2020, I started getting LinkedIn messages from attorneys at the foreclosing law firms. They were sending me a message through LinkedIn. Hey, would you teach me how to do real estate? And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, you're the bad guy. You're the foreclosing. And they're like, no, David, they fired my butt. They fired me. Okay, so, there were no foreclosures. And so these law firms, not that they're cheap. I mean, my son just passed the bar exam. My son just is an attorney. But anyway, they laid everyone off. And now, they're coming back, and they're having to try to hire attorneys back to be able to do the legal process and stuff. And so they can't really, do that massive in-way foreclosure. And, we don't want that to happen, because then we lose all these families. We lose all this revenue and income. We don't want the banks to take the house back and stuff. So now is the time to step in and help these families and make huge profits in real estate right now.
So from a networking perspective, what are the most valuable connections that you can have in order to take upon a short sale? Is it the lawyers? Is it real estate investors? Like, what plays a key role in a short sale?
Strangely enough, it's just getting the names and addresses and mailing a letter. That there's no relationships needed other than with the homeowner.
That's it.
Yeah, I know it sounds like a lone wolf kind of strategy, but that's really, I'm sorry, that's about what. And then even that, I pay someone to write so I teach my students to use direct mail. Okay, so actually, if they if they go to that, if they text short to my phone number and get the video that shows you where to find those people, then I pay other people to write letters to them. I teach direct mail. I'm not into the SEO, and not into the bandit signs and many other ways to reach the family. I just simply mail a letter to them and with my phone number, and they call me. Now, after that, Sebastian, there is a, team approach to what you do. So you have a realtor that you're going to use, to do a listing agreement. And that's a whole nother podcast about the paperwork, and stuff like that. But you've got a contractor on your team, so to speak, so there's that kind of perspective of teamwork. But, for someone wanting to start and do short sales, it's just that county legal newspaper and mail them a letter.
You just said something that reminded me that, okay, not very knowledgeable in this. That's why we have you here. Do you need a realtor to do a short sale in regards to, do you need to prove that the property was on the MLS for so many days before you could do the short sale?
That's a great question. All across America, anybody in America, except for Florida and California, anyone in America can do a short sale. Let's call it process the paperwork, negotiate the short sale. Anyone in America can do that. You don't have to have a license. You don't have to be, you can work at Walmart. The only exception is in Florida and California, you have to work with a realtor. Okay, so in essence, you're submitting your stuff through the realtor's name in those states, but you do not have to be a realtor. Now, is there a realtor on your team? See, you're the CEO, you're the maestro, you're the one organizing this whole short sale. And do you have a realtor on your team? Yes, but I pay $1,000 flat fee to the realtor, and they just give me all the paperwork blank, and I fill it all out, and then they just sign it, and then they get this $1,000 check at the end of it. You handle all the paperwork. Okay, you handle the negotiation with the bank and the paperwork back and forth. Now, interestingly enough, do you need a realtor? You know what? I had a series of documents that I would give to the bank that at the end of it, the bank would in essence say, you don't need a listing agreement. You don't need a realtor. Okay. And so, and kind of the way it went, you kind of got to this point and without going through the whole process, but you got to this, like the fourth or fifth, email or document that I give to them is kind of like this concept. Let's see, hold on a minute. The bank came out and determined the value of the house. David has a buyer for the house, which is me. Okay, so we got a price and we have a buyer. And then, so if we have a realtor, they want 6% commission. So now your net's going to drop. And the bank goes, you know what? Since we know the value and we have a buy, we don't really need to drop our net by 6%. And so in that case, they'll just, say, go ahead. Now, I'll just tell you in the past, probably 5 years out of 13, it's just easier for me to pay $1,000 to a realtor who gives me blank documents and lets me have them all filled out correctly and pay that $1,000 to them than to go through the time it takes and a series of documents to try to convince a bank, that they don't need to have a realtor. It's just easier to have one, on my team with it and stuff. And so, beyond that, there's a lot more detail to that answer, but that's the quick answer.
Wow. Okay, that'll make a lot of sense. In Florida and California are the exceptions. Huh. What do you think that is?
I think that well, can I just say California is California?
I guess.
There we go. That answers that question. How can you explain anything in the country of California? So
I know.
in Florida, I think that in Florida, I think it was probably because that for whatever reason they felt that a realtor might be trained better to help the homeowner out, and that's kind of what the deal is. You really need to understand short sales and know what they're doing. At least get my video so you can understand the process with it. You want someone that's not going to hurt the homeowner and mess things up. And so the concept, I guess, in Florida is that realtors are very active here. Florida is nothing but real estate. There's no state tax because it's all about real estate. And so a lot of those realtors are knowledgeable, and so they maybe feel that the best qualified person is a realtor to help a normal family out. That's my best guess on why Florida's like that.
Okay. Taking it back to how you find the addresses, how do you conduct that search?
Well, on that, like I said, if you text short to 636-685-2990, I've got a recording of where to do that. So what happens is, the county legal newspaper is going to have a section called trustee sales. And so you're going to click on that section, and then that's going to pull up what would be your mortgages, on homes. Okay, we don't want to look at government contracts or divorces, right? So we want to pull up just the public publication of that required 21-day, 30-day public posting in their newspaper, and that's going to be under the trustee sales. Now you have that right in front of you, and it gives you the name, the address of who that person is, and the date. Okay, so you can even tailor your letters, to include the date, in there, and then you mail that letter, to them from that website. Now, there are some cases where you might have to pay a $20 or $40 monthly fee. to get access, because technically it only has to be in a physical paper. Okay, but in modern age, we want everything accessible over the internet. So some of the counties, not all of them, most of them are free. Charge a small fee, but then when they do that, a lot of times they let you click a button and export it, and that's worth $20 a month. Just export into Excel, and then you can mail merge that into Microsoft Word with it and stuff. But basically, yeah, you're gonna find that county legal newspaper for for where that house is physically located.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that before. Some counties, especially like here in Iowa, I know that there is the Polk County that will do that. That they will have a membership in which you will get access to those
Yeah.
to those people. How would now for investors when you're reselling a short sale, who's your ideal, would you say, customer, or is it really any investor?
Well, so I want to kind of be clear on this. In the short sale process, I am negotiating the short sale with the bank, and I am also the buyer. Okay. So I will own that house at the end of the short sale. Now, I'm going to say these words loosely. My entity is going to own that house.
Okay.
There's it's kind of like this. Who are you? There's that group called The Who and the song Who Are You? You have to define who you are at any point in time. I mean, you're many people. I'm David Randolph. I am also David Randolph, manager of this LLC. I'm also David Randolph, president of this C corporation. I'm also just plain David Randolph. So there's many, what I call who are yous. So the buyer is one of your entities, and you're the negotiator. Now, what happens if the bank finds out that you're the negotiator and the buyer? If they find out that you're the same, what happens? Okay, they cut the commission to zero. They take the realtor's commission and cut it to zero. Whoop-de-doo. That's it. You don't go to jail. You don't get penalized. They don't shut your file down. They just say, okay, well, you're related, to the buyer, so we're going to make the commission zero. So you just pay the realtor on another deal, okay, that's working for you.
Gotcha.
I was only paying the realtor $1,000 anyway, okay?
Yeah.
So you just make sure they're covered on another deal. So perfectly, fine. So anyway, so you're the buyer, and then you're going to close on it. And then from there, it's really literally what you do. I mean, it's your personal financial life goals. Do I want rentals? Do I want to be a rehabber? Do I want to be a wholesaler? Because you own the house, and now you can sell it to anybody that you want.
Whole rentals. Okay. Do you look at the rental in your ARV? Are you looking at the monthly rent income in order to either hold it as a rental or sell it as a flip?
Well, that's a tough question, because here's been my problem. I had an original plan to get 5 rentals per year for 5 years and have 25 free and clear rentals, at $1,000 a month cash flow. That was my original plan. But every time I rehabbed a house and I went to try to find a tenant, a buyer stepped in with a realtor that had either cash or a bank qualified loan. And I'm like, do I want the $100,000 profit, or do I want the monthly? Do I want the 100,000? And I took the 100,000. That's Sebastian, why I got $3 million in my IRA, because I didn't do rentals. So yeah. I think that's a tough decision that you have to look at, because you have to look at, okay, I've paid so little for this house. My cash flow is really good. And this is going to be, most likely an appreciating property. So there's a lot of factors where, you have to decide, what you go by. I try to use a 100 rule. Okay. And that, I'm not going to pay any more than 100 times the monthly rent. So if the rent's $1,200 a month, I personally won't pay more than 120,000 for that house. And so if that home can sell for more than 120, like 200 or 300, then I'm going to sell it, because then I got that cash, and then I'm going to go find a rental. And you see, when you got this cash, you can, you get $100,000 in cash, you can buy a lot of rentals, traditionally with a lot of down payments, right? So go out and find a rental, where, it maybe meets the target that you're looking for. it's kind of tough. It's hard. And that's kind of why I just end up rehabbing and selling them.
Right. Yeah. But now that you have the cash, you're looking more for the cash flow, right? Is that so?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my next phase is to get into multifamily. Okay,
Okay.
that's my next phase. Okay, because you can do short sales on multifamilies.
Really?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Now there's kind of some issues with it. It's a little bit more non-regulated. So in a regular short sale, these are government loans, and I know the 300 steps. It's kind of like that Ocean's 11 movie, the Oriental guy going through the laser beams to get to the gold at the vault. In residential, single family residential, the short sale process steps are very well known. It's super simple, to get this $100,000 type profit. But in multifamily, it's not. It's not as regulated. So it's very possible you could do a short sale where that investor is like me, and they're not going to do a short sale. I want to take it back myself. I lent money on it, and now they can't make their payments, and so I'll take it back because I want multifamily. So it's a little bit tougher if you do a short sale in multifamily, because the rules that they have to follow are not regulated by the government like they are in single family.
Okay. And most of them are going to be commercial loans, and that's a completely different game.
Yes, exactly. So the commercial loans don't have to follow necessarily government standards. But the techniques, though, of presenting the valuation, and the whole concept of non-performing notes is still the same case. Okay, they still have those same kind of general issues. It's just that when I said is a kind of a secret, and then if you guy has to bleep this out, that's fine. But I said FHA will accept 88% of the appraised value. There's no 88% on a commercial loan. That's not a number that exists. If you try to do a short sale with multifamily, that's not a number that exists. Like it is with FHA loans.
Yeah, that will make sense because they don't abide the rules that follow government procedures.
Correct. Because they're commercial loans.
Yeah. So where you're currently at, like, buying your properties, renovating them, and short sell. What are you gonna do in the next 5 years? What's your long-term goal?
Well, right now I am, kind of what I call more of a personal goal. When I don't know. I mean, you understand this. When real estate's made you financially free, you have a lot of choices in life, right? Okay, and so for me personally, my goal is in this coming year is to acquire 4 short-term rentals. Okay, vacation rentals. Actually 5 vacation rentals across the country. So I'm actually personally trying to target vacation rentals in certain locations where I can go and stay at when they're not being, rented out, kind of thing. And so that's kind of my personal goal with it. Because I just, I'm at this age where, hey, I can make money on the vacation rental, get it all paid for, and then I can go, out of 5, one of them's got to be empty, right? And so I just go to that state, I go to that state, I go to that state, with it. So that's kind of my personal goals coming up.
That makes sense. Yeah. I know multiple investors that do that, and have one that goes to Mexico, then Hawaii, then Los Angeles, and repeats that process over there. Yeah. How can people reach out to you if they want to learn more about short sale? I know you've said it throughout the podcast, but how do we reach out to you? What's the best way to connect with you?
I think that, if you text short, SHORT, to my phone number, 636-685-2990. I've got this free video and slides that will explain the whole short sale process to you, show you how to find them. I think that's the easiest, best way. If you want to, look more into my, lending and other short sale materials and other stuff that I put together as a real estate investor, over time, the website, thedavidrandolph.com. And I guess if you're someone on here that just says, hey, look, I'm never going to do short sales for whatever reason. If you just need money, you can text the word lend, LEND, to me, and get my 4-page lending document, because there's a lot more that comes with it. Like I say, my heart's to help new rehabbers get started. I give you all my contractors, my material suppliers, and my product SKU numbers that I use in my houses. And so it goes on. So, you can do that if someone on here needs funding. I fund multifamily, units. We just had one recently. It was a 16 unit, 17 unit if you count the other one, but 17 unit. The investor bought it for 200,000, and then was going to put 200,000 into it. So I lent him $400,000, to buy the multifamily, and then we did the fix up of each of the units, and then he was able to go out and get that appraised. I think for like $1 million or something, or maybe it was 900,000, and then get a commercial loan off of that, at 80%, and pay me off and have a bunch of cash, quote, in his pocket from it. So, if you text LEND lend to my number, you can get that lending document. But yeah, I think that's probably the easiest ways. Go to my website is kind of got everything on there.
That's awesome. David, thank you so much for all the information. I am full with knowledge. I'm going to text that number so I can watch those videos. It was a lot of information. It was very useful. Yeah,
that's all free. And I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. You really do a great service to other investors in this, sphere and across the, quote, social media and stuff like that. So really appreciate what you do, bringing this to your people.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I appreciate you having the time to be in the podcast, and I'll be reaching out to you anytime soon to get those videos, learn more about short sales. And if you guys have made it this far in the video, subscribe, hit the like button, follow David on all social media, and I'll see you guys on the next one.